right, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about how you can start strong. Okay, we're going to go in on a few key directives that are going to help you to move forward. The first is setting your goals. The second is setting up your brand concept. And the third is setting boundaries so you can have success. If you're new here, I'm Charmaine Michelle of CM Design Agency, based in New York, fashion industry veteran and fashion brand strategist. I help startup brands learn how to navigate the industry so that it can launch strong from day one. So we're here today so that you can, if you are planning on launching later on this year or next year, any season next year or any time next year, any time frame, then this is a good session for you. And I'm going to answer any questions that you have at the end. So if you have questions, definitely pop them in there. I want to take a look at what you're thinking, what you're curious about. Either pop them in here and I'll answer them at the end, or DM me, okay, and we can have a conversation privately. The first thing I want you to think about as you're starting to get serious about growing this business is self-care. It's something that we're starting to acknowledge more and more in recent years, considering all that everyone has gone through. We realize that we're important too, right? But when you're building a business alongside a 9-to-5, as many new designers, BIPOC designers primarily, are doing, because for many reasons, right? It is so important to be able to balance not just this new passion that you have, this new endeavor that you've put into place, but to balance every area of your life so that you're set up for success, or planning to navigate that area of your life in a fair way, being fair to yourself. So some things to consider is setting time aside to work on your brand, to focus on your brand primarily. And I won't go into that too deep because I've spoken about that before fairly recently. Also, making sure that you're getting adequate sleep. Some of this is going to seem so simple, but it's something we have to tell ourselves over and over again, because who gets left behind? Who's last on the list, right? If you're like me, you've had to consciously put yourself first, consciously put a plan in place so that you can fit yourself into the schedule, because you're doing for so many others, and you want to be able to do it all. It's that superwoman syndrome. It is not really a thing. We are not superwomen. Okay, we do not have to be superwomen. We need our sleep. So having some sleep, adequate sleep every night, or if you have less sleep one night, balance it out the rest of the week, however you need to do so. And eating well. Eating in such a way that your body is going to be able to thrive, to sustain the challenges of the day in and day out, and so that you can have the energy to continue to move forward. And exercise, right? No brainer, right? But exercise, there was a study that was done some time ago. I don't remember one of the colleges, where they said that, let me see, I wrote it down. Walking increases your creativity by 60%. 60%. So just a little bit of walking a day can do you a world of good, whether you're walking in a treadmill. I was in this exercise group before, trying to get it in myself. And one of the women, she was always just moving. It was actually on Clubhouse. It was one of those walking groups, right? And she was always getting it in. As we're talking, she was always winded. And one day, I don't know if it was me or somebody else asked, where are you walking? Are you walking outside? And she's like, no, I'm walking around my house. She's like, I'm going around and around and around and around. She was getting it in more than many every morning. So walk. Give yourself a little bit of time to get some exercise in. If walking is what you choose to do, you can, of course, do many other things, right? Also have time for those family obligations, and time for quiet time, or sitting in your faith, growing your faith, meditating, whatever it is that you do to come back to center. Okay? First and foremost, self-care. You can't be anything to anybody, let alone your customers and this brand you're building, if you don't take care of yourself. Okay, next, let's talk about the brand. This concept of building this brand. What I would want you to think about is, Why do you want to start this brand in the first place? Why is it important to you? Why do you want to build this collection and launch and cater to these customers? Why do you want to have this kind of autonomy? Is it because you want freedom and flexibility, control over your finances? Or do you have a creative passion that you just have to get out? You have something to say and you're ready to make your mark. Just do a bit of exploration and figure out what your real motivation is. What's your why? Because in entrepreneurship, you have some ups, you have some downs. Knowing your why, knowing why you started is the thing that's going to get you through over those humps. Next, think about the type of collection. And if you're here, you probably already know what type of collection you're planning on launching, right? But think about it a little more deeply even. If you're launching a dress collection, let's just say, well, what type of dresses? Are they dresses for work? Are they casual dresses? Are they dresses for vacation? What types of dresses? And what market level are you planning to cater to? And that's a whole other conversation about market level. Your market level and the type of product you are producing or manufacturing is something that you hone in on way in the beginning, because everything you do feeds into that vision you have for your brand. And another question to ask yourself, why now? Why does your customer need this kind of collection right now, right? And hello, talking about the customer. Who is this customer? Who is your collection for? We're going to go a bit deeper on the brand concept now. I talk so often about your brand persona. Understanding who you are as a brand, how you show up, making sure that who you think you are as a brand is the same as who everyone else perceives you to be as a brand, because your messaging, your marketing is so well conceptualized and so clear that people can feel what your brand is about. That's your brand persona. So let's talk about a little bit of that. Your brand's reason for being is, once again, why you want to launch this collection at this moment in time to serve your customer right now, and also thinking about your brand sensibility. There are thousands of brands. The ones that thrive, the ones that do well, the ones that stand the test of time have a distinct sensibility, a distinct point of view. They have something to say, something special, some little nuance, something about that brand that makes them different from the others that are almost exactly like what they're producing. So what is your point of view? What do you bring to the table? What do you stand for? What do you stand against as a brand? And how does that show up and affect and inform your collections going forward? And another specific thing to think about is what is the solution that you are offering the market, right? Every great brand brings a viable and necessary solution to market. That is why customers buy, because customers need that solution. For a fashion brand, it seems a bit obscure. It's like, okay, why do you need another jacket? Why do you need another pair of pants? Why do you need a dress? But customers are absolutely looking for certain types of collections that are a beautiful fit for where they are in their life. The customer will be drawn to your brand because there's just something about your brand that makes her feel like herself, or makes him feel like himself, makes them feel like they can stand in who they are and feel, go through the day. That's a solution. You are giving them a way to feel empowered and good in their own skin. And that is a much needed and beautiful thing these days. Okay, and next, how are you uniquely qualified to bring your brand to life? What is it about your backstory? What is it about your experience, even if you work in another field, even if maybe your grandmother was a seamstress, or maybe you were exposed to different parts of the industry, and this is just something that you want to get into the creative end of the industry. But what is it about you that drew you to fashion in the first place? right? Give that a bit of thought and start keeping a notebook. Start writing these things down, because once it's all laid out, you can revisit it and start to build this thing. A brand persona is a living, breathing representation of your brand, and you really want to have it all thought out from the beginning. Now, let's talk a bit about the customer, right? That core customer. Typically, back in the day, all people used to think about when they thought about customers were the demographics, right? The who they are and how old they are and how many children do they have and where do they live and how much disposable income do they have, right? Do they rent? Do they own? Do they drive? Do they take public transportation? Some literal metrics there. The thing to do now is to add, not forget about those things, still important, but also add the psychographics to the equation. Understand how they think, what they need, why they do what they do, what their life is like that makes them need to do certain things the way that they need to do them. But the psychographics, again, understand their motivations, understand their desires, understand what literally, basically, what makes them tick, what makes them want what they want. Everybody has unique desires. Every customer base has unique needs that brands who understand what those needs are feel like second nature, like it's no big deal. And that's only because they understand who they're serving. Also, what are the barriers with regard to these customers? What are the barriers that have been in place, or that, what are the gaps in the market that have prevented them from feeling seen, from getting this type of collection, from finding this type of sizing, or finding this type of fabric, or having this type of styling. You know, there are many gaps in the market in the fashion industry. Lots of people have been left out and not fully considered yet. Some of that is starting to change. And if you understand your customer, you understand her language, you understand what she's looking for or what he's looking for, and you are going to be the brand that she turns to, because when she sees your brand, or when he sees your brand, they're gonna feel like you see them. And it's a beautiful thing, and something that needs to be put in place, needs to be understood before you start even designing one thing. And I know that sounds strange, but believe me when I tell you, that's another conversation again. But understanding your customer is key. One more note I have here is also understand, where are they shopping now? If they need this solution, right? They need this type of brand, but until they get the brand that is ideal for them, that is missing from the market, they're still shopping from somewhere. Find out what market level they're shopping at, who are they buying from. Take a look at some of that chatter. Social media gives us access to all of the comments and all of the desires, good and bad, that customers put out there. Oh my gosh, on LinkedIn, on Twitter even, you can get a whole lot of customer feedback if you're paying attention. They will tell you what they need, right? So understand who's filling that gap, and then how you're going to fill it better. All right, next, let me move on to, okay, there was a designer that I read about in one of the CFDA articles. Her name was Elena Velez, and I just wanted to bring this to you and touch on it just a bit. So Elena Velez grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and she started a women's wear brand. And she grew up in an environment that appreciated femininity, but she herself, because of certain things that I'll go into in just a sec, she did not fully embrace traditional feminine beauty standards. Right? She saw beauty in being who you are, even if that was different from most women in the US, right? Or around the world. Her mom was a really great influence on her. I believe her mom worked on a ship. I don't remember the exact role she played there, but she had a strong, capable, willful, unapologetic mom who, yes, had some femininity to her that she embraced at a certain level, but what Elena admired about women like her mom is that they were kind of, they had some grit. They had this other side of them. And she saw such beauty in that she started her collection to cater to those women who needed to express that side of themselves. Now, her fabrics, the fabrics that she uses, she makes sure that there's always a play on texture and the finishing. And the thing that stood out for me the most was the juxtaposition of the very flowy and soft feminine fabrics that she used alongside the dense and more rigid fabrics. And her styling just speaks volumes. She understands this customer. They don't want to do away with their femininity. They just want to jazz it up a little bit so that they feel like they're themselves, that they're in their own skin when they're wearing any type of clothing, right? Because everybody is different. The brand that her core customers, these customers were longing for, I bet they didn't, if you come to New York, you can find a lot of things, right? But until recent times, you couldn't find just about everything on the internet, right? Her customers had to be so refreshed and feel so seen when they found her brand. It is unique and it is beautifully done. So take a look at Elena Velez and just, read up on her story a bit. Okay, next, third area I want to cover is about boundaries. In order to set boundaries, with there being so many distractions and so many things that are interesting and so many things that we want to do and explore and take part in, it's going to be very important to prune your schedule, to prune your life as a whole, actually, to make sure that you're including on your schedule. And I touched on it a little bit in the beginning when I talked about self-care, but include on your schedule, of course, brand building activities. Don't let the days just fly by. Sometimes, when things get really busy, it's Friday before you know it. But schedule in brand building activities on purpose. You'll thank yourself later. For certain people like me, if it's not on the calendar, it's not getting done. If it's not on the schedule, it's not getting done. The reason many people can do so much is because they've planned it out in advance as best as possible. And limit the distractions. Easier said than done many times, but absolutely possible. And replace those time-wasting habits. We can name a few. I'm sure you can think of a couple. But replace them with launch-focused habits. Implement that habit of being in tune with what's happening in this industry that you want to launch your brand in. You can't be so green. You have to dive in there. The other thing about that is become now the person you need to be. A person that launches a collection is a certain personality. And I'm not talking about the nuances. I'm talking about the cut and dry things. They are organized. They are immersed in the industry. They have a plan. They know their schedule. They know the calendar of the industry. They understand the marketplace. They have done things that are setting them up for success. So become that person now. Sit in some quiet and embody that persona, the person you need to be to actually launch before you actually launch. Don't wait to be ready when you launch. Start now being that person so that you can see success sooner. Okay, let's see what else I have for you today. Okay, so next, I want to tell you a little story about pruning. I don't know, should I tell you the story? I guess I will. Maybe I will. I know I'm going a bit long. How long is this already? All right, I'm going to just go a little longer. Okay, well, with regard to pruning, sometimes we say, oh my gosh, cut off the people that are distractions, cut off, social media, cut off this, cut off that. And it seems like, dang, well, I enjoy some of that stuff. So you feel like you're losing. Right? You're losing out on something, but it's really not the case, right? It may be uncomfortable to cut out some things, to prune them out of your life, even if it's temporarily for the time you need to go hard and build this brand that you say you want to have out in the market, right? Maybe a bit uncomfortable, but in the end, you're winning. You are absolutely going to see the benefit of it in the end. Now, I'll tell you a little story. I have some plants, and I don't have the greenest thumb. My sister has such a green thumb. I'm getting there. So I had this plant that was doing well, and I was so excited because the leaves were green, and I was remembering to water it, and it was just looking better than it had before. And my youngest son said, "Oh, I have some friends coming over. We're gonna order pizza, and we're gonna be on the back porch." And I was like, "Okay, fine. Yeah, go ahead, have fun." So they did their thing. They had their pizza on the porch, and he had a good old time. And then the next day, I go out on the porch, and there are like maybe 8 branches cracked off of my succulent plant. The plant that was just starting to look so good, just crack. So apparently something happened, and one of his friends leaned over and crushed the plant by accident. And I was so hurt. But what can you do? It was a plant, they had fun, so it hurt, but I was like, okay. So I forgot about the plant, came back to it weeks later, literally. And I think, I had watered it quickly a couple times, but didn't really pay much attention to it. But one day I went outside on the porch. I looked at this plant. The plant had literally doubled, almost doubled in size. There were these beautiful, so many new branches. I stood there staring at this thing in awe. I lost the branches that were broken off and never imagined what the plant could look like had I pruned it in the first place. It was a lesson for me, and something I'm not going to forget anytime soon. Sometimes it looks like you're losing, many times you're gaining. That plant was beautiful. It was more beautiful than it would have been if it was in my care. So sometimes things happen. What does Oprah say? That they don't happen to you, they happen for you. And that's the truth. So pruning creates space for opportunity and new growth in our lives. So begin to embrace that, right? Because brand growth is the goal. Now, to wrap it up, make sure that you're paying attention to your mental health needs. Yes, we're talking about that more and more these days. It's something that people are voicing more than ever. And why not? It's long overdue. Right? Because if you don't have the headspace to do what you need to do, then you're gonna burn out or give up. And who wants to see that, right? So make sure you're taking care of yourself mentally and physically. Stay healthy so you can be the best you again and again and again, month over month. If you're launching, the time really is now to start building, to get really organized, to put some things in place, to really understand your brand and understand that customer, understand what you bring to the table, understand what your capacity is, what your bandwidth is, alongside the 9-to-5 that you may have. Making that make sense so that you start strong from day one and you have something to show for it, okay? And I was watching actually a reel this morning, and it was by T.D. Jakes, and something he said stuck with me. He said, if you don't want to make waves, be mediocre, because it takes courage to be different. It takes courage to be successful. It takes courage to win. And I was like, dang, absolutely. That is so true. We are building something great. We are building something meaningful, not just for ourselves, but for those customers that we cater to. And it's going to take courage. It's going to take courage to keep moving forward, because I know people are all flashy on social media, making it look like, oh, it's a cakewalk, right? It takes structure to stay in business. Anybody can start a business. How many can stay in business? All right. So have the courage to move forward. Surround yourself with those who are moving in a similar direction you're going in. Stay immersed in the industry. Ask for what you need. You'd be surprised what you get if you would just ask sometimes, right? And just go for it. Do not attempt to live anybody else's life. Live your life. Life is short. Go for it. All you need to do is stay plugged in tap into the resources that are available to you. If you tap my link in my bio, actually, there are a couple things there that you can take a look at that I'm sure would be helpful for those of you who are starting to think about launching a brand, or even if you've started already. Okay, so definitely take a look at that. And with that, I think I'm going to check this chat. Hello, hello, hello to everybody waving. I'm waving back. Hey, hey, hey. Let me see if there are any questions. Do I have information on how to get your fashion in stores? Oh my gosh. Absolutely. But that's a loaded question. If you are planning to get your collection into stores, I always go deep on. You can't just get your collection in just any store. You would have to know which market level you're catering to, how that product costs out, what your profit margin is, how much the garments in that store sell for, who that customer is they're catering to. Is their core customer the exact same customer that you want to sell to, that your brand caters to? Stores, much like factories, are like partnerships to me. You are aligning with people who are catering to the same segment of the market. So the stores that you are selling to will be serving your same exact customer. But how do you get into those stores, right? You start building a list, you start researching. And you know what, Stephanie, I was just tapping into a couple of things. I think it was for PR. All right, but that could be a great avenue to get you some visibility and get you into stores eventually. But if you want to get into stores, you need to have a short list. You need to have a list of the stores that you are interested in being in. And before you contact them, know that you're serving the same customer. And when you contact them, show them how your brand can be of value to their customer, how it can add to their brand presence as a store, and why they should choose your brand to replace the space that another brand is taking up in their store. They're not just going to add you many times to everything else that they have. They're going to kick another brand out the door and put yours in instead. So it has to make real sense to their bottom line. It has to make real sense to the customer that they're catering to. They have to see the value of your brand and how not just how you can look good for a season, but how a long-term relationship could potentially look with you if they just gave you a chance, because you know that customer. You know them inside and out like the back of your hand. You know what she needs and you're ready to give it to her, right? So start building a list, and then you can back into it by researching really and seeing who the buyers are for certain stores. Okay, so yeah, so you're going to start walking. Yeah, 60% increase in creativity. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, hello, hello. Yes, segmentation. All right, I think that is it for today. So thank you all for joining. I am excited. I'm ready. We're here. Stay in touch. Ask questions. I'm an open book. You can ask me questions in the DMs. I know not everybody wants to put their stuff publicly for people to dive into, but definitely tap in, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Have a wonderful rest of your week. See you again soon.